When I first started doing art fairs, one of the biggest things I was worried about was leaving my art booth closed at night and then having someone come in the middle of the night and steal my artwork or steal my whole entire tent, sidewalls, any of the things that I had spent so much money acquiring for my art fair booth. And now 10 years later, looking back on this time in my life, I didn't need to be as concerned about it as I was, but I have learned a few things along the way, and I want to share those with you so that way you'll be able to secure your art booth properly and you won't have to worry about it so much. First off, most fine art fairs have overnight security. Now, they can't be everywhere, but I do think that they do a fairly good job of protecting your work in most situations. Personally, I've never had artwork stolen from my booth at nighttime. I've never had anyone break into my booth or even had it look like anyone attempted to do so. And I think a big part of this was overnight security. That said, there are some things that you should always do to protect yourself overnight. First thing is remove everything from your booth that's easily sellable. Like for instance, if someone were to break into your booth, if they see your iPad in your checkout stand for Square, they are going to steal that because they can take it to a pawn shop and try to sell it. But artwork, on the other hand, they have no readily available way to sell that. And so it reduces the motivation for theft if you make sure to clear out those types of things in your booth. Likewise, if you are a jewelry seller, you should probably remove all of your jewelry every night because it's just too tempting for someone who would enter your booth over the nighttime. Of course, I don't think this really needs to be said, but you need to remove any money that you have and make sure to bring your cell phone with you. What I found is sometimes it shows I accidentally leave something behind. So I make a mental checklist, but you can make a physical checklist if you are just starting out because there's a lot of things to manage. In that checklist, you want to make sure to compile a list of all the things that are the most expensive items that you want to make sure to bring with you every night, or just something that you don't want to forget, like a cell phone. I mean, it could be relatively easily replaced, but you don't want to lose your phone. You need it overnight while you're staying in your hotel and you're out on the road. When it comes to protecting your artwork, some artists move everything out of their booth every night and then move everything back in the morning. If you have really big, expensive paintings, and let's say you only have 10 of them hanging up, it might not be too difficult to do this. You will have to hand truck everything in and out of the show most likely, because typically they don't allow you to bring your vehicles in to load things up at night in between the days. Sometimes they do, different shows do different things. And so if you are in question, ask the organizers before the show so you can make appropriate plans. But most artists do not do this. Most of us just leave all of our work inside the booth. Now, sometimes we will pack certain things down into boxes or containers, especially if there's going to be a big storm, so that way our work is protected. But most of the time we are not hand trucking it back to our vehicles every single night. If you do this, which I did this for the first couple of years, I did art fairs because I was so worried about theft or damage or anything that could happen at nighttime in my booth. I quickly learned that doing this is a whole lot of unnecessary work because most of the time nothing's going to happen to the things in your booth. Still, you can't predict what's going to happen with the weather. Let's say a tornado would strike in the middle of the night and just wipe out the entire art fair. Sometimes things like this happen at art fairs, like floods, unexpected weather, or there could be some bad person out there who would enter your booth and steal some of your artwork or vandalize items. If you are concerned about this, you can get an insurance policy on your booth. I had one of these for several years as well. The downside to most insurance policies for artists is that they either only protect liability, which many of us are required to have a liability policy to do the show, or they only protect your cost of replacement. So typically they will not replace the value that you say your artwork is for. I'm an acrylic painter. You can see some of my work back there, but let's say it's a replacement cost policy. If I lose a painting, let's say it gets stolen or damaged by something like rain in my booth, and I want to claim it, there will be a $500 or even $250 deductible on my policy. And if the replacement cost for an original painting is only $30 or $40, I have to lose half of my booth before I can recoup any money. And then beyond that, the money that I do recoup doesn't factor in my labor. It only factors in the cost of materials. With all that in mind though, I did want to mention insurance policies as an option because you may want to go that route. It will protect your investment on your art fair booth. So if there's some type of weather that completely demolishes your booth and ruins your entire tent, and you have $2,000 or $3,000 invested in it, you will be able to get a new tent afterward. So it definitely is something to consider. Just weigh those costs versus benefits for you. The next thing that I do when I close down my booth, and I think this is one of the most important things, is making sure all of the sides are down, obviously, so that way no one can see your stuff. If you don't have sides on your booth, use tarps with clamps, but it's better to have actual sides that zip down on all of the corners. This way you can secure the zippers once they're already zip shut with zip ties to the tent poles or some other surface along the bottom of your tents if it has grommets, anything like that that you can feed the zip tie through to be able to sort of lock your booth. Now, of course, if someone comes by with scissors or a knife, they can break through a zip tie. But think about it, if there are lots of other booths around you that aren't zip tied, a person who's just walking along looking for something to break into, they are probably going to take the easy way out and just enter one of those other booths and see what's available to steal, rather than yours because you made it harder for them to get in. Check the description for my art fair supply list. It's amazing. I have the zip ties in there, of course, but you can get them lots of places, but all sorts of other options for your art fair booth. It'll help you save some money. If you found this video helpful, you might like to learn how to pack your paintings for art fairs. If so, check out this video. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.